Welcome to Step 2 of Learning SEO. This is a series of short videos that teach SEO one puzzle piece at a time. If you missed my intro video or my video on Step 1, you can use the link in the descriptions below to start there. Okay, let's start on Step 2, meta descriptions. Meta descriptions are hugely important and so often overlooked. They're probably overlooked because when you view the web page itself, you don't see the meta description. Well, not without looking at the HTML code. Every web page should have a meta description. However, they're not mandatory, so it may not. Meta descriptions are summary descriptions that you recommend search engines use in their search results. Note the key word here is recommend. More on that later. Have I confused you yet? You're probably wondering why invisible text is so important, and if it's so important, why a page can work without it. Okay, let me explain. It's critically important for SEO, not the functioning of the page itself. Let me show you how it's used, and hopefully it will illustrate why it's so important. Meta descriptions, just like the tags discussed in Step 1, are important to both visitors and search engines. I should emphasize potential visitors. They see the description before they ever visit your website. For example, if a potential visitor searches best backpacking packs, they get a list of search results, and your meta description is typically the description the potential visitor skims to evaluate whether they're going to actually click through and visit your web page or not. Meta descriptions are truly an art. While it seems simple at first, the more you work with meta descriptions, the more you'll see how much talent it takes to truly create great descriptions that are helpful to both your potential visitors and the search engines. In this short meta description, you need to give potential visitors an accurate summary of what to expect if they were to click through to your web page. Really good descriptions also entice people to really want to click to read more. And it all has to be in less than 160 characters. In fact, some people recommend less than 150 characters long. If you're great at writing amazing, interesting tweets, you might have an advantage in this art form. Search engines get the text from your web page. If you check the HTML of your web page, as a search engine would do, you should find the meta description in the top head section of the page. Again, I say should because it's not mandatory and your web page might not have a meta description yet. It's important that the description not only meets the needs of your potential visitors, but also gives search engines an accurate summary of the page too. Often a description that makes sense to a human also makes a good description for a search engine. But be careful, not always. For example, as a human, we may get overly creative and say, heading to the backcountry of Alaska, you'll need this guide for your expedition to be sure that you can carry all your crazy climbing gear far into the backcountry. As a human, we may like the idea in this description, and it might even expect that this guide is going to be about backpacks. But for search engines, this is actually very misleading. The search engine might think that it's about guides to an Alaskan expeditions or backcountry climbing gear or backcountry of Alaska because you don't once mention anything about backpacks in that description. We'll talk more about keyword phrases in a later video, but obviously in this case, the keyword phrase is best backpacking packs. So you'll want to make sure that that's in your meta description. All right, so what if you don't have a meta description? Or what if you have a meta description, but when you check the search results, you see that what you have as the meta description is not what they're using as their description? Well, that's why earlier we mentioned it's only a recommendation. It might not always make sense to you, but search engines may find other text on your website and decide that that makes a better description. It's also worth mentioning that it might not be completely obvious where to change these descriptions. You're likely not just adjusting the code directly in your HTML. and instead you're probably using a platform like WordPress or maybe Drupal. And those platforms oftentimes need plugins to be able to edit meta descriptions. So that's getting a little away from the scope of these videos, but just know that those plugins do exist, and you may need to ask the developer of your website where to find them, or to ask them to install them for you if they haven't already been installed. I also need to give a big caution at this point. We'll go further into blacklists and black hat marketing later in the series, but for now, please be sure your meta descriptions are honest and not misleading or tricky. Be sure that as you create enticing meta descriptions that encourage people to view your webpage, you're not tricking them to view your webpage. For example, don't say free chocolate in the meta description if there's no free chocolate. Tricking search engines, even if it's done by accident, can do the opposite and end up harming your search ranking. Okay, on to the action. Go to an existing page on your website and review the meta description to see if it can be improved. Of course, you might first have to check and just see if you even have a meta description on the web page. If it is already there, is it a work of art? Check the length, make sure it's less than 160 characters, and then challenge yourself to see if you can improve it even further. Then, just as we did in the last video, do a specific search on a search engine like Google so that your web page shows up in the results. Look at that from the perspective of both a potential visitor and the search engine. And ask, is it an accurate summary of the page? Is it the right length? Does it include the right keywords? Does it entice potential visitors to click to your website to see even more? You probably noticed, but I mentioned length in both on the website and in the search results. That's because you'll want to make sure that the length of it is less than 160 characters on your website, but then you also want to go the extra step and make sure that on the search results that the entire description shows up there and that they're not showing even less. Because if they are, you might want to redo your meta description to be even shorter as well. Congratulations! You added another puzzle piece. While there is so much more to learn, you'll be shocked on how much you can improve with your SEO just with these two puzzle pieces. And when you're ready, use the link in the description below for the next video in the series, keyword phrases. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the next video.